newcomers and experienced hands. Find out what it takes to run for office on Newsnight with former Senator Hassan Omar and former police spokesperson Charles Owino.
Own a piece of Havana Estate, Nakuru Phase 2 at 500.
Okay, we apologize for that technical hitch and for that delay. We are now back on and we want to get straight into our interview at this moment. Let me introduce my guests here in studio. I don't need to introduce them, but I will still formally do this. Joining us is Hassan Omar, former Senator Mombasa. Welcome to the program. Thank you. Thank you. And good to see you after many years. Great. And we're also joined by Charles Owino, former police spokesperson. Welcome to the program as well.
Asante sana.
All right. Well, a bit of time has gone, so let's get straight into it. And Charles, I want to start with you. It's an election year. Where were you this time, 5 years ago?
5 years ago?
5 years ago.
I was at police headquarters.
What was happening then? What was happening in your area, in your surroundings?
My area of jurisdiction?
Yes.
We were preparing for elections for the 2017. Yes.
Okay. He's being very modest with his words. And where were you, Hassan Omar, 5 years ago?
Around the same time, I was in the same race for governor for Mombasa.
Okay.
But then I was also the serving senator of Mombasa County.
Okay.
Yes.
I asked this question because are there things that are happening now that remind you of 2017?
Absolutely. It's an election year, but more than ever, I think the election momentum or tempo has peaked earlier than the usual. The coalition formations are starting to take shape earlier than the usual, and one side is not looking for a coalition. That's the UDA. It's quite building a base by interacting with the local population or the Kenyans in its entirety. One other side is trying to create a coalition of ethnic and regional kingpins. So I think there's a difference because the conversation has shifted quite drastically. And I think what then the unit of political organization and mobilization has shifted the conversation to what you have to offer directly to the people of the Republic.
Okay. That's your reading of how similar or different we are right now from 2017. But for you, Charles, maybe I can be a bit more specific. When you go back to 2017, at a time like this, ODM were the ones complaining and of harassment by the state. We saw things like a clamor for the change of election laws in Parliament. Do you see similarities or differences between then and now?
Not really. You know, as a policeman, you are an officer of the law. Your responsibility is to enforce laws and regulations. But you see, as a spokesperson, most of the times, and as a policeman, you must remain neutral and enforce the law as required. So even to date, the complaints that were there in 2017 affect my campaigns because I hear some people tell me, oh, you fought us, you beat us. How come now you want to come and lead us? So these are things that happen. But you see, I'm just starting the game. I'm transiting from being a police officer to a politician. But most importantly, the post I'm looking for is not too political because much of the politics is expected in legislation. This is a post that I'm expected to administrate my people and try to change their lives, move their life, their standard of living from one point to
I'm
another,
curious, and sorry,
as compared to maybe legislative life.
How do you respond to those who make that assertion towards you?
You must just understand that they are competitors and they have nothing to offer.
It's not the people asking you.
No. It's just competitors who have nothing to offer. They have nothing to pin you down on, and therefore they have to get something in competition to try and you know, the advantage is, by the basis of my training, when you attack me or abuse me, I have an answer for you. So it's not a problem.
Okay. Hassan, there's somewhere I'm going to with this particular argument I'm trying to put out there, because I want us this evening to have a discussion on whether indeed the state participates in politics during elections and whether you see similarities between 2017 and what's happening right now. Go ahead.
I do see some similarities. The pattern of choreography or state-sponsored or state complicity when it comes to violence by one political axis and the use of intimidation and state apparatus to suffocate and muzzle one side, and this time it's the UDA side. What is most shocking about this whole turn of events is the perpetrator of these acts of intimidation and state-sponsored complicit violence is actually Raila Odinga. We saw his choreography from the time when he... And
you have to substantiate those very strong claims that you're making.
I am substantiating it, without a doubt. Look at the Kondele violence. Nothing happened to the Kondele violence. And every other time that the UDA party has gone to certain areas that are regarded as within the bedroom policy of Raila Odinga, there has been some attempt to subvert or to scuttle or UDA's attempt to hold rallies or political gatherings there. And the latest one is Jacaranda. And in fact, it triggered the UDA party to now present this matter of state complicity or state-sponsored violence or a choreography or an emerging systematic pattern to the head of the National Security Council that is at the doorstep of the presidency. We want him as the President of the Republic to ensure a free, fair, and peaceful election. These triggers that we see lately, the kind of incitement that is being perpetrated by state, that is trying to incite communities against one another, is trying to plan violence or politics ethnically, is almost a replay of what we have seen with the Raila axis, but just that the roles have reversed. And I see a lot of our ODM friends quite cheering the fact that, you are now in the you test the opposition. And I thought when you advocate for reforms, you advocate for fairness for everyone. You don't advocate for reform so that you can come into the position of oppression. You want fairness so that societies continue to prosper in that type of fairness. So I see that, and I think the UDA is concerned, and the UDA has started to document this pattern of state-sponsored violence, state complicity in violence, and we will continue to escalate it once we see that the President and his National Security Council are unwilling or not ready to act on this state-sponsored violence.
I'll come back to understand exactly what you then mean to do moving forward if you feel you've not received an adequate response from the parties that you've written to. But for you, Owino, we have an incident today. Just today, for example, we have some of those pictures and we can play them if we're able to. We don't want to preempt court matters, but Jimmy Wanjigi, businessman, today, 20 hours or so, barricaded in his home, now at the Kamkunji police station, and he claims his tribulations are political. Some would ask, the state's hand in political matters was seen in 2017, and it appears to be playing out again today.
Before I get into that, Hassan, you're very lucky that I have a few days to leave my work.
Well, am I lucky?
I wish, no, because you've attacked supposedly my party leader in a few days to come, Raila Odinga, and I think as a person aspiring to be a politician, and you as a student of Raila Odinga, because I remember you've worked with Raila Odinga for very long in agitation for reforms. He's an old man. I just want to request you to weigh your words.
No, I'm just being as honest as it were. We attacked. We said the same things about President Kibaki, who was equally an old man.
So just allow me. What I'm saying is, as a lawyer and an advocate of High Court, you know what it means to mention an individual's name, unless you are able to substantiate how the person has personally been involved in the violence. Then it is not fair for you to make that. But it is, I cannot go beyond that because I don't want...
Until when? When will you now feel free to...
From 10th. Just invite me with him.
10th of February?
Yes, I'll defend, because I think he will be my party leader in the next few months, yes. But the case of... I would not want to over-comment on the case of Maina Wanjigi as...
Jimmy Wanjigi?
Jimmy Wanjigi as political or not political, in the sense that I want to believe that the court of law is a very balanced area, that when you are arrested and the police say they will take you to court, then we'll be able to wait and see what action would the court take. But for the purpose of for the sake of the police, I would not want to, because you see, mode of entry into somebody's building depends. Was he requested to open and he refused to open? Do we have justifiable circumstances when the police may force your door open? If it is provided for in law, and Hassan knows that, then well and good. But all the same, we have institutions that would deal with such complaints when they arise.
Okay,
but
specifically
I
on that,
not want to speak.
And you're not the police spokesperson.
No, I don't want to speak for them.
Representing.
Yes.
But for example, the manner of what we saw today in that operation.
Yes.
Why would a matter like this, where
yes.
he's accused,
yes.
allegedly, of a fraudulent transaction,
yes.
be handled by the anti-terror police?
It depends.
Or individuals.
Fine. It depends on the mode of arrest and the kind of preparedness of the person you are going to arrest. There could be a particular individual that you may not be able to arrest using the ordinary police officers. They may not have equipment for doing that. Remember, this is not the first time we are dealing with him. The police have dealt with him before. But I don't want to speak on that because I'm no longer the police spokesperson.
Okay.
So I would want to limit myself to that.
Hang on, let him say something, then I come back to you. I know there's more you want to say.
I want to comment on that. I think this whole Jimmy Wanjigi, though Jimmy Wanjigi doesn't support the UDA, Jimmy Wanjigi has never had very kind views about the UDA. But I think we owe and must afford everybody the full protection of the law, as afforded by the Constitution. That's why, as a movement, the Hustler Nation, we have created an entire caucus or movement within it, committed to the rule of law and good governance. That is not only the defense of the 2010 Constitution by defeating the BBI, but the actual implementation of the Constitution when UDA comes to power later this year. When Jimmy Wanjigi was a Raila sponsor, Raila Odinga actually spent the night in his house trying to defend Jimmy Wanjigi. They say that, and they called it a perpetrated state terrorism. They tried to defend Jimmy Wanjigi. The whole entire brigade of lawyers, Orengos and the rest of them, were side by side, and all of us were the ODM brigade was so touched about how Jimmy appeared to be very cozy and and compassionate with the wife.
Where were UDA allied MPs at that point?
They were definitely, they had already started, there was already a pattern of choreography of isolation of the UDA or the Tanga from government. And as I said, just because some acts of victimization were perpetrated against another person does not justify those acts now once you are in the position of leadership or in the same position that you are of strength. So this time around, Jimmy Wanjigi has even been arrested against a court order that restrained the arrest, and it was literally Gestapo. They could have easily summoned Jimmy Wanjigi. I think by and large, if he's a billionaire and his whereabouts are known, they could have easily summoned him to the police headquarters and probably he would have shown up. But these Gestapo type of tactics are the same pattern of choreography of intimidation leading into an election. They want to force Raila on the Kenyan public. They're intimidating governors, they're intimidating members of parliament, they're intimidating business people. There is a whole pattern of choreography of state-sponsored intimidation, now spiced up with violence, so that he can suppress the vote, because the UDA victory in the next election is a matter of time.
Let me ask you a question before Charles comes in. State-sponsored violence, state-sponsored acts. When members of UDA, you have the deputy party leader of Jubilee, the deputy president of the country, you have several members of parliament. In fact, they say a majority of Jubilee are in UDA. Where were they when there was a chance to reform the state to ensure that state-sponsored violence is no longer a possibility? Why now is UDA the shining light when a majority of UDA allied MPs had a chance in government to make a difference?
I don't think there is any law or anything that necessarily allows any party. Even at that time, there was nothing to reform. The only thing, what there is the law to be followed. There is a rule of law regime that just takes the goodwill of leaders and our demand of the Constitution for you to observe. So all these means are extrajudicial means. They are in excess of the Constitution. They're in excess of the rule of law. And yes, there was a time I even could recall some of the Tanga, one or two I remember in the blogs, would sometimes cheer some of these actions. I wouldn't necessarily. I wouldn't necessarily defend that. But just because they cheered that action does not justify the repetition. And I'm happy some of them have transformed enough or redeemed enough in terms of realizing that it's part of their folly. I have seen public apologies from some of these people, like Murkomen telling Muguna, I am sorry, I supported your deportation, I now do want you back as a citizen of this republic. And people do undergo this process of redemption. Redemption is allowed by God, redemption must be allowed by politics.
Very interesting point there. Charles, go ahead. Now you.
I think this is very interesting. You know, Raila Odinga is not a member of the current government. I think your party leader and your party forms part of the current government. So I think it's unfair for the old man when you attack him and try to portray him to be part of the state. So I think if you have a problem with the state, you just face the state directly without mentioning.
You know, you're a good friend.
No.
Do you live in this country, really?
What I'm saying is,
do you live in this country?
I live in this country and I know what I'm talking about.
Yes, okay.
What I'm saying,
Raila calls himself Senegal.
Just a minute.
He calls himself Senegal.
And I was very quiet.
Okay, I'll listen
when
now.
he was speaking. What I'm saying, we need to face realities. Face the person that you think you have a problem with. Leave the old man alone. Because Raila is not a minister, he's not a president, he's not a deputy president. He's actually an opposition leader. He's not even in parliament. He's not even in there. So what I think is, you see, you are trying to draw Raila's name simply because you are competing. Your party and his party is competing. I think the best thing is to, let us not incite the public. Let's wait and face one another in the ballot. I think that will be most important. But what I want to say is that it will be very fair that every Kenyan gets to understand that it's important that we have a very peaceful election, because life is not ending with the elections. And we have seen these things happen. You are friends today, tomorrow you are enemies. In politics, there's no permanent enmity and no permanent friendship. I am sure Hassan and I, despite the fact that we are friends, we are definitely going to be in different parties. But also, fortunately, we are going to run in different counties. Hassan and I, for the next 20 years, we may be deeply involved in the politics of this country until when we'll be in our 70s and we'll also be giving way for others. So I think the most important thing is not to incite the public. The most important thing is to look at the best ways in which we are going to run this country going forward. And most importantly, preach that we ensure that we have a very peaceful election. We have had problems in the past. You know the problems we had in 2007, 2008. You know what followed, going to The Hague and so on and so forth. So I think from my background, where I come from, I know Hassan is an agitator. His background is agitation. He has been a student leader. He has been involved in very hard politics. He has been with Raila Odinga. He's now with UDA. And I just want to request you, Hassan, that as we go forward, let us look at the best ways and means of bringing our country together, and more so the youths.
Are you surprised by his Damascus moment?
No, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. He's an agitator, and I can't blame him for doing that, because that one falls within his rights, and it is also important. You know, opposition is very important because you are going to be able to bring up issues that may be raised. But what I was against is trying to bring an individual's name that is actually not in government that you are talking about. Okay. He can be a friend. Yeah, he can be a friend to the president.
Yes.
But that does not mean that you need to directly attack him and say that he's the one perpetrating violence.
Okay.
But you can't blame him because he's looking for votes and sympathy.
You know, there's what you call de jure. He's an officer of law, and de facto. De jure is documented that the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya is William Samoei Ruto. De facto, we know what is happening. De facto, Raila was in a PG of the handshake with Uhuru Kenyatta at State House to plan government programs, government bills, and possibly an entry into the election phase. Raila Party members, ODM, are chairing parliamentary committees, including the Finance Committee. So they cannot run away from the fact that they have decided to be in bed with government, abdicated their roles as the opposition. And therefore, some of us as well-meaning Kenyans, our association is definitely the Hustler Nation, and our political organization is the UDA. But that does not stop my rights as a private citizen to continue to articulate issues that I find are pertinent. And if these issues are issues that UDA shares, then there are issues that we all share as a party, as a movement, and as an individual. So, and yes, I wanted to respond to this issue that my brother Winos brought up. Raila Odinga was in no doubt a hero to many of us and an inspiration to many of us. But we reserve the right to make decisions on the basis of the direction he has taken. And one of the most notorious, the decision of notoriety, is to try and bastardize, to try and cannibalize, to try and literally rape the country's constitution through the BBI process, a process that has been averred by no other than the Court of Appeal as a process that is null, void, and unconstitutional. So therefore, for you to have wanted to subvert the constitution, you told us you had sacrificed for and gone to jail for, means that it is not us who changed. It is Raila Odinga who's not the person that he was. We reserve the right, just because we supported Raila Odinga in our phase of politics, does not mean that if he changes position, we cannot also readjust ours based on national interest. And we coalesced around the Hustler Nation and the Tanga Tanga to defend the country's constitution. And it morphed into a political organization that right now tries to defend even the weak, the downtrodden. They want to change the economic model. They want to compete for power.
You now feel you share more with William Ruto and UDA than with
Because
Raila
William
Odinga.
Ruto and UDA is a process of consultation. There's not a question of Baba said and we all jump. We participate in decision-making. We are a consultative organization. I can literally point out to some ideas that I contributed in some of the kind of, policy frameworks that we are proposing to the public. And it also responded to my immediate need as Mombasa County and as the Coast region. We were getting into a dire economic situation where ODM just stood by. The guy who said that the port was being transferred to Naivasha became the cheerleader. In fact, his banner was right on the fast movement of the train that literally started to transfer logistic functions to the ICD in Mombasa, in Nairobi.
Okay, I think I don't want to blame him. That is how jilted lovers, behave. Because
you should not have personal attacks.
If it was, if they would have been still on the other side, I'm sure they would have been comfortable. And even when we talk about Wanjigi's case, I'm sure he was on that other side when Wanjigi was supposedly suffering on the other side. So what I would say is, I would want us to deviate, if you allow, from this discussion of attacking, because I may not be able to defend either of them, given my position. I still remain neutral for the next few days.
Okay.
So that I'm not accused.
Then allow me to do this.
So I think
let me take a break, come back, and I have a question to you now away from where we are. So once again, apologies to our viewers for that technical challenge, but you can understand this was a discussion you don't want to miss. We've just scratched the surface. We're taking a short break. We come back. We carry on engaging with my two guests. Rich history for both of them, and they say it's all about politics in 2022. Stay tuned. Newsnight continues after the break.